All right, welcome back to the Super Centex Podcast with Chad and DJ. The crew is back together again. Chad back from Colorado, I guess.
Yeah, I made a quick trip, played a lot of golf, walked up and down a lot of hills. So back to 90-degree reality in Waco, Texas.
It is rather warm, but this is not really that unusual for October.
No. We'll get another cold front here in a couple weeks, and we'll put on hoodies for a couple of days and put them back on the chair where they always sit, in my case.
Gotcha. So I don't know if y'all have heard, but we've got an election coming up in a couple of weeks.
Ah, who's running?
As if you could not escape the never-ending commercials.
Well, let's see. The president, this is Joe Biden's first term, so then he's running again, right? So
nice try. So we've had several themed episodes of the Super Centex podcast this season. This will be our election-themed pod. And you guys already know that we're not going to get political, but rather...
But we are going to scream at each other and belittle each other, right?
I approved this message.
I just need to make it clear, just because I'm wearing red doesn't mean that's what I'm voting for.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure we're supposed to say who we're actually voting for.
Well, there are no good options.
I don't know.
Anyway, let's get back to football.
You're exactly right.
I'm going to write in Ralph Nader.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's do some stumping for our Super Centex Awards. And I'm going to acknowledge right off the bat that a lot of this could change. We have playoffs coming up. That will certainly have a determining factor in these superlatives that we give out at the Trib. But, we're playing the if the season ended today kind of game. So, let's start with Offensive Player of the Year, and we've each picked one guy to stump for. Chad, who's your guy?
Who was my guy? I can't. Oh, wait. I know who it was. I got a little bit, speaking of stumping, I got a little bit stumped because you're like, if the season ended today, and that's, I happen to argue with that criteria to begin with.
Okay, fine.
It's almost like,
however you want to do it.
The moderator is screwing things up again.
Just like the debates, right?
Right, yeah. No, but DeMontrell Medlock is the unquestioned leader of the Mart offense. He, in some ways, he kind of has to do it all for them. And I don't, Mart, people are kind of scratching their heads about Mart, about who they actually are. But you look up and they lost to Whitney in the first game of the season, and they've won every game since then because of the way that whole 2A D2 picture looks in the state. They're the number one ranked team. So if you get to the end of the season and he has carried that team and they end up where their ranking says they're going to end up, and I think not many people would tell you that that's definitely going to happen, right? I mean, I think even their coach is yearning for them to be the Mart Panthers in all ways, in culture and effort and everything, and cohesiveness. But if that happens, if they end up where the map is telling us they're going right now, DeMontrell Medlock's going to be the guy.
And he's a stud. There's no question. And I think we've talked about it a lot this year. Mart leaning on him maybe a lot more than they have one guy in a while. I mean, they've had a few more dogs in the fight the last few years. DJ, who's your pick?
I'm gonna go with Evan Moreno of the 6th ranked Robinson Rockets.
I like it.
Yeah, I mean, okay, if I could split up the Offensive Player of the Year award, I would give it to the O-line, but because a lot of Moreno's success has come from how sturdy they've been. But I mean, this is a kid that's just energetic. He's a leader on the team. He's played other positions which I feel like have contributed to his ability to run the ball. And I mean, when he gets it, you know where he's going. He's going down the middle. That doesn't mean that, he can't go other ways, but it's a testament to how tough he is, how tough the O-line is, and how well put together Robinson's offense is. That, I mean, he's got um over 1,000 yards rushing, right? 1,135 yards and 133 carries, and has
Well,
scored
and I just
17
did the math.
touchdowns.
I just did the math on that. What to your point of what you're saying, the offensive line blocking for a guy that's going inside running a lot, and he's getting 8.5 yards a carry this far into the
Mhm.
season. That tells a lot of the story right there, doesn't it?
Yep. So I'm
Yeah,
gonna go
and
Evan Moreno.
I mean, and to me, his sort of ascension um mirrors Robinson's ascension because like when he had his breakout game, I want to say it was against Glen Rose.
Oh
And,
yeah.
and it was like, okay, Robinson's for real, and who's this Evan Moreno kid?
We're gonna have to start calling them the Skyrockets.
Oh, okay. Now you're getting back to our musical podcast, Chad. Uh, all right. I'm gonna stump for Lathan Wissington of Midway, who is just a stud as a sophomore. I've had a lot of people this season go, "Wait, that kid's a sophomore?" Like, first of all, he's just big. He's big. He's strong. He's fast. um, they lean on him a lot, and with good reason. I mean, now I will say early in the season, um, Craig Smoke on one of the play-by-play broadcasts that they do, he and his dad do for Midway, said something that I agreed with, which was, as he gets to be a junior and a senior, he's going to start finishing more of those runs off. Like he was getting hit, and even though he keeps going, like he was getting tackled some. Well, I think he's not having to wait until he's a junior or senior. Like he's finishing off those runs better. He had what, like over 240 yards against Temple. That was a big win for the Panthers. So, yeah, Lathan Wissington, he certainly will be in the mix at the
I'm
end.
looking forward to getting to see Midway
Yes,
for the
yes.
first time this decade, I think.
Oh, shut up. All right. Defensive player of the year. Chad.
I'm first up on this one. Well, uh, Bryson Maxwell Steele at Marlin for his classification, I feel like is kind of unblockable. I mean, I haven't got to see it a lot, but you look at the numbers, and I saw him play a lot last year, and I have a feeling other offenses are having a game plan simply to go away from him, because his size and speed that he brings to the table. And then you look at the numbers, and he's got 24 and a half tackles for loss this season, to go along with 66 tackles for a defensive lineman. That's a lot of disruption. And, Marlin probably needs a few needs a few difference makers because they're not quite the depth. They don't quite have the depth of playmakers I feel like that they've had the last couple of years. So he's probably maybe their team MVP at this point.
Mm. And of course, the reigning Super Centex Defensive Player of the Year. So not a lot of guys have won that award twice. DJ, who do you say?
I'm going with the reigning defensive newcomer of the year and Joaquin Martinez over at University. I mean, this is a kid who's, tough, first to the ball kind of guy. He's leading the defense right now, 83 tackles, averaging almost 12 tackles a game. He's got 4 sacks. So, he's a very much a take charge kind of guy. He's been the spark for this University team on the defensive side of the ball for a lot of the season, especially when they kind of get behind on themselves, right? Like recently, the Trojans have kind of been shooting themselves in the foot a little bit. And I feel like defensively, although he's only a junior and he's only been with this team for a couple of years because he came in as a sophomore, he's definitely stepped up in being one of like the voices of reason for the University defense. So I mean, I think there's still a lot of room for growth, and I could see him continuing to rise throughout the rest of the year.
I interviewed him once last season when he was a sophomore, and was just really impressed with how poised and mature he was, even just as a 10th grader, 15, 16-year-old. Yeah, he's doing a great job. So I'm gonna go a little bit sort of uh this will be a different kind of pick, but
Outside of the box.
outside of the box, thank you. And I'm going to mention Jamarian Vincent from Conley. Now, we don't give an overall player of the year award at the Trib, like we break it into offense and defense. Um, this is a little bit of a reflection of everything Jamarian Vincent does for the Conley Cadets, but um, clearly he's good at everything. He's good as a returner, he's good as a runner on offense, quarterback. And then, of course, he plays DB for them. And, from what I understand, a lot of teams don't really throw his direction. He's got one pick on the year. His defensive stats aren't going to overwhelm you or wow you, but uh, one of the best players in Central Texas, no matter what position he's playing. So that's a little bit of a reflection of that. I will say this, though, before we move on. Um, right now, I'm not sure any defense in Central Texas is playing better than West. And, I'll be interested when we get kind of their numbers and everything. They're pretty balanced, it looks like, but I mean, who's seen them play this year? Have both y'all seen him?
I haven't yet.
Okay,
No.
I've
DJ,
seen them.
who
They,
stands out for them defensively?
oh God, you can't really pick one because I mean, Coy Klish, David Klander, although I gotta say, Coy Klish might be out for the season. We don't have a confirmation yet, but apparently he got hurt in this last game.
Right. I
Uh,
had heard that. Yeah.
no, the game before against Maypearl, he got hurt. But David Klander and Coy Klish were the seniors coming in, leading this team on defense, and also doing a lot on offense, but mainly on defense. But Klander and James Darnell and Hunter Peters have really stepped up and been the disruptive force for the Trojans so far this season. For me, it's kind of hard to pick because they all kind of do different things really well, and they bring a different um, tools for the Trojans to work with
Yeah,
defensively.
David Klander was a preseason Super Centex defensive lineman. And we've got some really good D linemen with Bryce and Maxwell Steele at Marlin, David Klander at West, Jaden Magruder at Hillsborough is another earth mover, push some guys around. And then a guy out at Lorena, Jackson Blackwell, who's a Baylor commit, tough kid. We've got some really good guys that'll get in there and occupy blockers and those bigger defensive linemen, maybe they're not always the edge pass rushers, but boy, if you have a good one, they can be difference makers. All right. Finally, let's talk coach of the year. So on my screen, Chad is here and DJ's here. So I'm just kind of going, counter
That direction. Yeah.
counterclockwise. So Chad, who's your coach of the year?
Okay. Well, I'm going to go with John Bechtel in Fairfield. And I look at their schedule results. They're on a 5-game winning streak, which, I think any of us that passionately follow a football team, whether it be high school, college, NFL, having a 5-game winning streak feels good, because it's such a battle every week and you have to earn it every week. And I've always said it's kind of like bowling, once you get those wins stacked up on each other, you get 3 in a row and you got something going, right? You get a 4-bagger, then you're starting to have some points back, build up. So they've got 5 in a row now. The key one in there was the win in the rivalry game over TIG. And 50-43, kind of a shootout, probably a lot of people having conversations about that game over there in Freestone County. So then they follow that up with they playing not a very good Huntington team. This week they've got Dieball, which is a little bit more of a toss-up game, but I really feel like they can get to 6 wins in a row. Then they got Palestine Westwood. And that's your game this season. It's going to separate John Bechtel from, he's our guy, from, okay, well, he's in the mix, but who are we talking about here? Because Palestine Westwood is really good. Then Fairfield finishes the season.
But here's the thing. John Bechtel and the Fairfield Eagles follow the rules. Does Palestine Westwood follow the rules? I don't know if you saw that UIL news this week about.
That's right. They had to forfeit all their district games.
Yes. So Fairfield should.
So that game is moot. Then
Fairfield should be moving toward the district championship.
Does that mean Westwood? And I hate to bring this question up to answer when we're going kind of quote unquote live, but is Westwood, have they forfeited all their district games, or do they forfeit all the ones up till now?
To this point, yeah. I think it's to this point. Like, as long as they don't continue stealing signs or whatever they were doing. That's what I think.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah, it was a signal stealing thing. And the coach got suspended. I know they appealed to the state district executive committee. I'm not sure I ever saw that yet, whether that ruling came down. But
if that ends up being the case, and they win district and get a number 1 seed in the playoffs, no telling how high the Eagles could fly this season. And you got to look at some other things they got going for them. Chris Collins, right, quarterback, leading the area in passing. Cole Collins, Cole Collins leading the area in passing.
Yeah,
they've got Finn Smith.
Mm-hmm. Very good receiver.
Good pass catcher. Is it Shed? What's Shed's first? Not Jamal. Jalen Shed.
Yeah.
Jamal Shed is Houston Cougars basketball, right?
Right. Correct.
Jalen Shed is their leading rusher, and like I mentioned, Finn Smith, leading pass catcher. So they got kind of that triplets thing going on a little bit, but obviously putting up a lot of points on the offensive side, and you kind of wonder, because Fairfield has been really, really good in the recent past, not the super recent past, but the recent past. And you just always wonder where they're going to get that back to that point. So are they building to that now? And so it's an interesting watch.
I think I think they're one of those communities that they're John's going to have them competitive every year, but when that really good class comes through that's got all the athletes, then okay, we can make a run now because we've got good coaching, good schemes, and now we got some dudes.
Yeah, the magic ingredient in Fairfield is having a Brackens on the roster.
There you go.
Which they do.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. All right, DJ, make your case for
Coach Lancaster. Robinson.
Coach Lancaster. That's a good call.
I just feel like the trajectory so far, being only his second year leading the Rockets, but really turning everything around and like really getting everybody to buy in. I mean, those guys, they really see each other as brothers, when they're on the field, when they're off the field. I mean, just watching them in this game against Connolly, where they'd get behind the chains and there was zero panic, like, because they knew, this is nothing. Like, we can overcome this easy, and they did. Like, I mean, Bryce McCurdy only being a sophomore quarterback, you've got like I mentioned, the offensive line that's kind of built itself up around all these veterans, but they've got a sophomore in there as well that's gonna be super key when they come back next year and have to sort of rebuild in that sense. And then having Evan and Stephen Knight and Austin Marshall, one of the receivers, and defensively, you don't find very many holes there. But I feel like the key really is that they believe in each other and that they believe that they can win games. And a lot of that also comes from Coach Lancaster and that staff staying and believing in them, right? Because they feel like their coaching staff is believing in them. And they didn't really have that prior to this coaching staff coming in.
They've had a lot of
three different coaches.
Turnover. Yeah, they've had a lot of turnover in Robinson. Um,
So I feel like they can make it pretty far. Not, this weekend, whether they win or lose against La Vega, like the rest of the season is still going to be a pretty solid season for them.
yeah,
They're
well,
super
so
battle tested.
Mhm.
we often judge Coach of the Year fairly or unfairly on what we expected that team to do, right? I mean, and if a team really exceeds our expectation, that coach is going to be in consideration. And let's face it, I mean, I know DJ maybe was a little higher on Robinson than we were, but at the same time, it was easy to sort of even coming off a playoff season. It was easy to sort of say, well, with China Spring and La Vega moving down, Lorena moving up, these are teams that have had deep runs in the playoffs recently. It was like, you kind of just expected Robinson to be one of the odd teams out. And here they are state ranked. So, yeah, I give Chris Lancaster a ton of credit. Doing a great job. All right.
But
I
that's not
will
who you're stumping for.
It's not who I'm stumping for, but I still like the pick. Uh, and I'm gonna quickly say Aaron Knoll at Mahia. Um, and here's the deal. I mean, obviously, he's dealing with a situation that no coach should have to deal with, right?
Mm-hmm.
The death of a player. I mean, that's just not in the playbook. And
Mm-hmm.
um, to me, there will not be a more impressive win all season than Mejia's win over Grosbeck because, it's the day that they laid their teammate to rest. And they go out and not only win, but I mean, they were in complete control in a rivalry game and really sort of um, kind of announced themselves in that district. And um, yeah, so I give Aaron Nolan his staff a ton of credit as well. Um, DJ referenced it, but we do have uh, when if we picked a game of the year at the end of the season, I think there's the potential that this one coming up could be, one of the candidates. Um, so we have La Vega and Robinson in the likely District 12 4A championship game. La Vega travels to Rocket Field. This has been a highly anticipated showdown. We've talked about it for a few weeks now. Is there any outcome in this game that would surprise you at this point?
I think if it was 56-49 and Robinson won it, I think that would surprise me a little bit.
Because of La
I
Vega's
just feel like, yeah, La
defense?
Vega is better equipped to, go up and down the field quickly.
Mm,
But that's just like this question was almost like, what would you imagine as being a weird result? But anything else, Robinson winning in a close game, La Vega winning in a close game, a blowout either way because well, maybe a Robinson win and a blowout would be a little bit surprising. But anything else would not surprise me.
DJ?
I don't I don't know. I don't think there's gonna be a blowout by either team because it's gonna be real tough.
Mm-hmm.
I can't really say. I feel like if it's not so much the outcome of the game because these are two teams that are both battle tested in the non-district, right? I mean, Robinson's only loss came to a state-ranked Alvarado team, and all of La Vegas losses have come to state-ranked teams as well in the non-district, and so they're pretty battle-tested. They they play really on paper. They look kind of similar in that you got sophomore quarterbacks that throw the ball well. You got really sturdy O lines and D lines. You got two senior running backs that kind of control the running game. Although I gotta say, La Vega probably has a few more guys that you can throw that give the ball to, and they do really well. Because Stephen Knight over at Robinson got hurt in that like before that Glen Rose game. So that's part of why Evan Moreno has been, kind of carrying the load, is because like their other really good running back is still recovering. Um, I I would be more surprised if La Vega blew out Robinson, because I don't feel like the Rockets are just a team that are going to lay down and take it. Um, and I don't feel like La Vega is going to, let themselves get blown out either. But there's more of a chance of, you know, just something happening like in, that West Orange Star game where it was really close, but they just didn't have that extra oomph, so but I don't know. It's
You know,
tough.
in
It's tough to pick this
turnovers,
one.
that's the thing we can't ever predict is turnovers, right?
Yeah.
Like how that's going to go. Special, like probably in all of football, we don't talk about special teams enough because special teams really mistakes hurt you more than good plays help you. But
Yeah.
either way, right? Yeah.
Well, and field position, it's such a big determining thing, and so you know, you shank a punt, and then the other team has a short field to work with, and it's just it's the butterfly effect,
And then so you mentioned offensive lines, it's 2 games in a row, I think, that they really haven't gotten Bryson Rowland going very good. He had a good night running against Brownwood a month ago. And I think they had a bye, they played Stephenville and then had a bye week. And then they started district. And so it's been a while since Bryson Rowland had a really good night running the ball. But at the same time, they've thrown him the ball and had success. Jabari Thornton, Brice, you weren't on the podcast the other night. I don't know if you saw the play come up on Twitter as I saw it somewhere and DJ sent it out to us. But Jabari Thornton mossed a guy and then juggled the ball and caught it as he was falling to the ground and finally secured it while he was on his back. It was just an amazing play. He's, we didn't talk about him as offensive player of the year candidates because he's a receiver on a team with a star running back. But man, that kid is really good. So I think can La Vega, which hasn't been great in the box on defense, can they stand up to Robinson's running game? And then can Robinson, cover Jabari Thornton and Bryson Rowland out of the backfield?
But pick up a trib, check to see who we picked. We'll just leave it at that. We'll be coy about it. And
that I thought about just going opposite you on every one of those games, every one of those 12-4-8 D2 games.
You really going to give me a monster lead? I mean, I've had a lead all year, but
I tell you what, if you get all 3 of them right, I'll buy you lunch next week.
Okay, I like it. I have nothing to lose. So DJ will be at that La Vega-Robinson game. Should be super fun out there at Rocket Field. And then, as Chad referenced, someone else is going to a Midway game.
Yeah, Midway homecoming. Not only is my niece Hallie Webb on the homecoming court. I just thought of this just now. 1994, my first season covering Midway football as the Panther Post sports editor. So it's a 30-year homecoming for me as well.
There you go. I thought it was fitting that you went back for homecoming as a Midway alum.
Sure, why not?
I will go the other way on Bagby and head down to Waco ISD Stadium and go watch Waco High and University in a little crosstown game. I think we all expect the Trojans probably to handle that one. The Lions continue to struggle, but it's the proverbial, hey, it's a rivalry game. Maybe something crazy will happen. So,
hey, low-key game of the week, Clifton Toller.
And yes, I have Michael Haig going to Clifton for that game because, should be a good one. So, good stuff. All right, we'll talk about it on Friday night after dark. But for now, that's it. See y'all later.